Okay, so welcome back, and now what we're going to do is we're going to graph this curve, and this is going to be one of those rose curves. Notice that we have 4 theta, so we have an even end, so we're going to have double the number of petals. Okay, so that means we're going to have 8 petals that we're going to need to graph. It's cosine, so we know that this is symmetric with the pole, with respect to the pole, the polar axis, and the line theta equals pi over 2. Now, again, practice doing the tests, but realize that the tests may fail. Okay, so it may not give you the whole story. Okay, now let's go through the process and see what we come up with. First of all, we've got 4 theta in here. Okay, so if we take 4 theta, and we want to go from 0 to pi over 2, okay, so that means we're going to be going from, so theta will go from 0 to right, 2 pi. So if we're going to go from 0 to 2 pi, then theta is going to go from 0 to pi over 2. Now, we've got 8 petals, right? So think about this. So I'm going to probably want to split this up into 8 pieces. So I'm probably going to want to go by 8ths. Because I'm going to have 8, I've got to go from here to here. So I'm going to have to, I'm thinking about that whole scheme. Okay, so let's start with the zeros. Okay, so again, when is this going to be equal to 0? So keep this in your mind. Well, let's do it down here. So if we have 2 cosine 4 theta, and we want that to equal 0, then this has to equal what? Then we know that, again, if we divide both sides by 2, so this just says that cosine of 4 theta has to equal 0. We know the cosine of an angle is equal to 0 when the angle is what? Pi over 2. Okay? So that means it happens when 4 theta is pi over 2. But that also says that it's going to happen when theta is pi over 8. So we know we have a 0 at what? 0 comma pi over 8. Okay. Now the thing is, this is not the only place it's going to be 0. In fact, this happens, and again, this goes back to things that we talked about. This happens at pi over 2, what? Plus or minus pi, right? Pi times k for any integer k. But that means, what am I going to do? So that means theta is going to is going to go to 0 for pi over 8 plus or minus pi over 4 times k. Okay, now. That's going to be important to know. That's going to be useful. Okay, now, what about maximum? Where does the maximum, again, when cosine is 1, that's when the maximum value occurs. Okay, and then r will be 2. So where does this occur? So cosine of 4 theta equals 1 when 4 theta, right? At what angle? When the angle is equal to 0, right? Or no, not 0. Let me make sure. Yeah. When 0. I'm getting mixed up here. So when the angle is equal to 0, right? Or adding or subtracting what? Some multiple of 2 pi. So that means that this is going to be equal to 0 plus or minus 2 pi times k, right? That's when cosine is going to be equal to 1, which means that that will happen when theta is equal to 0 plus or minus pi over 2 times some integer. Okay, so what happens? So we know at 0, what do we get? This is going to be 0 and we get 2. So at 0, we're going to be at 2. Okay. Now, from 0 to pi over 8, it's going to go from 2 to 0. Okay. Well, let's think about this. So let's go back to symmetry. Since I have 8 petals, I'm going to have 3 petals in this quadrant. Or excuse me, no, I'm sorry. There are 8 petals. So I'm going to I'll have a petal here, 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 and here, and then I'm going to have a petal here, 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 and here. Because I've got to divide the 8 petals with each quadrant, right? So I'm going to have petals along this axis, and then in between the axes. Okay? So now, what happens? From 0 to pi over 8, it's going to go from 2 to 0. Right? Because that's what I got. So I've got this. And this, right? So let's go up by 8ths and see what happens. Because that's what's going to happen. If I go up by 8ths, right? I'm going to go all the way around, and I'll get them all. Yeah, so let's do that. Okay, so now let's do my table, and let's see what happens here. So theta r okay, so we're going to go 0, pi over 8, pi over 4, 3 pi over 8, so 1, 2, 3, pi over 2. So this is 4 pi over 8, 5 pi over 8, 6 pi over 8, which is the same as 3 pi over 4, 7 pi over 8, 9 pi over 8, and then 10 pi over 8, which is the same as 5 pi over 4, Okay, so let's do this. So if I put in 0, I get 0 and I get 2. So that makes sense. So I get 2. Now here, if I put in pi over 8, well, here I get what? I'm going to get pi over 2. Right, so if I put in pi over 8, I get pi over 2, which is 0, so I get 0. Right, and that's what we got before. Okay, so no surprise there. So now let's go to pi over 4. That's going to give me pi. That's going to give me 2 again. Hold on. Yeah. But hold on. Pi over 4, if I stick in pi over 4 here, this gives me 2 pi. Oh, excuse me, hold on. Pi over 4, yeah, pi. But pi is here. Okay? So I'm going to get negative, because this is going to be negative 1. Okay? So then this is going to be negative 2. There we go. Then if I put in 3 pi over 8 into here, I get 3 pi over 2. Well, that's interesting, because now 3 pi over 2 brings me here, and that's going to bring me back to 0. Okay, now, this is interesting. So now if I put in pi over 2, that's going to give me 2 pi, and I'm going to get back to 1, right? And that's going to bring me back to 2. So what's going on here? So if I have 0, so if I start with 0, I'm at 2, and from 0 to pi over 8, I'm going to 0. Okay. And then at pi over 4, I'm at negative 2. So let's do this. Hold on a second. I got to put my, let me erase this here, because I got to put my, lines in here. Okay. So I've got 0 here, right? 0, so 0, 2, and then I go to pi over 8, okay? And pi over 8 brings me back to 0. Like so. And then from pi over 8 to pi over 2, or excuse me, from pi over 8 to pi over 4, it brings me to negative 2. Oh, so watch what happens. So I'm going here, and then as I go to a 45-degree angle, I'm going to 2, but it's negative 2, so I'm going the opposite direction. So I'm going to 2, let's say about right here. So this is going to go through here, and I'm going to go there. Aha! So far so good. Now, from pi over 4 to 3 pi over 8, right, I'm going to 0. So now I'm going here. Now this is still going to be negative. It's negative, but it's going back to 0. So now this is going to go like that. Now I'm going back to 2. Now I'm going from 3 pi over 8 to pi over 2, 90 degrees. And I'm going to go to 9, so here. So now it's going to go back to 2, which is going to be right there. So now it's going this way, right? And now it's going to continue on, and it's going to go up there. Now you start to see a pattern, which is kind of, so this is created one petal at a time. So let's keep going. Now, here's what I suspect. Now that I'm seeing this, right? So now I'm at pi over 2. Now, when I go to 5 pi over 8, what's going to happen? This is going to go to 5 pi over 2, right? And 5 pi over 2 is the same as what? That's going to be, well, that's going to be the same as pi over 2. Cosine of pi over 2 is 0. So this is going to be 0. So now it's going to go back down to 0. But now, look at it. Now it's going to go to another 45-degree angle. So now, from here, it's going down to here. Okay? But I'm going to 90 to another pi over 8. And now I'm going to this here, but now it's going to negative 2. So again, I'm going from 90 to 1 plus another pi over 8, and then another pi over 8, which is pi over 4. So now I'm going 90 degrees, or 45 degrees this way, but it's negative 2. So this means I'm going to go from 0. So let's say it's here, like so. And then from 7 pi over 8, so from here to here, so now I'm going from pi over 4 to here, one more pi over 8, and from there to there, I'm going to go back to 0. Again, let's do it. So this is going to be 7 pi over 2. Well, 7 pi over 2 is a 90-degree angle. So 7 pi over 2, right? So 7 pi over 2 is the same as what? 3 pi plus pi over 2, right? Which basically brings us full circle 1, that's 2 pi, and then another pi, and then another half pi. That brings us to here, which is what? 0, right? So that brings us to 3 pi over 2, right? And so it's 0. And then here, 9 pi over 8, again, is the same as 9 pi over 2. And 9 pi over 2, so now where are we at? So I'm here, so now we're going to go from, so again, from 3 pi over 4 to 7 pi over 8, we're going back to 0. And then we're going to back at this point here. It's going to go positive. It's going to go positive 2. And so it's going to go here. And then it's going to keep going on. And watch what happens. So then I'm going to keep going like so. And then it's going to continue like so. And then it's going to continue like so. And like so. Until we finally reach where we started. Okay. And so notice as we keep going and we keep adding an eighth, we're gonna, when we go through 2 pi, right? We'll end up from 0 to 2 pi, we're gonna end up going one full trace of this rose. And that's it. Have a great day.